What is up, everybody? Welcome to Trey's Trades, where we give technical analysis on different stocks in the stock market, as well as potential buy, hold, or sell opinions on these given stocks. I'd like to preface by saying that I am not a financial advisor nor expert. I am just some random dude on YouTube, so take what I say with a grain of salt. The reason that I started this channel is because a couple of years ago, I ran into some pretty bad medical issues that put me about $30,000 in debt. And I was very lucky to have a mentor, some good close friends and family that pushed me to work really hard, invest my money and pay off that debt, and I am a very happy guy to be living my life pretty financially free. And if I can pass along any of that information to you guys, I would love to do that. And perhaps you guys can pass it on to somebody else. Lastly, if you wouldn't mind dropping a like on the video, I would really appreciate it. It does help out the channel a lot. And consider subscribing if you'd like to see more content like this. I do post videos every day, multiple times a day, and a lot of them do cover Microvision Incorporated, which is the stock that we're about to talk about today. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Today we are looking at ticker symbol MVIS, and we have a lot to cover today, so let's dig right into the major news. Now, what I have for you today is a huge deal that was cut with Microvision, and this is very hard to digest without getting right into it. So let's just get into this. It says on December 29th, 2020, Microvision entered into an at-the-market issue and sales agreement. And at-the-market is a very big deal. I'll get into that in a second. With Craig-Hallum Capital Group LLC, pursuant to which the company may sell at its option up to an aggregate of $13 million in shares of its common stock through Craig-Hallum as sales agent. Now, I'm going to leave a link to this article in the description down below if you want to take a quicker look at it, a more in-depth look. But at the market is a huge deal, because what this is saying is this Craig-Hallum Capital Group LLC is willing to buy $13 million in shares of its common stock at the market cost, which means the company, Microvision, is not going to be selling their shares at a cheaper price than what it is currently selling at. And somewhere in this article, it does say that they are selling at $6.55, which is what the price valuation closed at the end of yesterday's regular market hours. So what this means is Craig-Hallum Capital Group believes in this stock so much that they think, okay, $6.55 is an investment so worthwhile that there's not enough risk to outweigh the potential upside with this company. And that is a huge deal. You need to really pay attention to big time investors, the institutional investors that are willing to put that much money into a stock, because that typically means that they've done their homework, they realize what value the company provides, and Microvision provides a lot of value. Now, there was a little bit of concern with the company initially. They did think that the traders saw that article come out right away and they thought, okay, this is bad. This might mean that we're going to be looking at, some sort of share dilution. This might mean that we're going to be looking at, cheaper price valuations, but that is not the case whatsoever. In fact, it means the exact opposite. This means that they are going to be adding overall equity to their company, and the upside here could be very high. So I would expect tomorrow, of course I can't predict the future, I'm not a wizard. If I could, you'd all be very wealthy people, just like I would. But I do think this is going to positively impact the company, and you will be seeing a very solid green day. Now, that is what I have for this piece of the news. So let's get into the next two things that I think are very important. The next thing that I wanted to cover is the House overriding Trump's veto bill of $740 billion in the defense, the national defense, and it was sent to the GOP-led Senate. Now, what this essentially is saying is the House voted on Monday to override President Donald Trump's veto of an annual defense spending bill, which means Donald Trump put a veto down on the annual defense spending bill, basically more money allocated to the national defense of the U.S. Army, and they voted against that. So the override went through, and now it is getting sent to the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who said they would vote on it as an override on Tuesday. Now, this did get pushed until tomorrow, but if this does go through, that will increase the overall bill and budget that goes towards the national defense. And this directly ties into Microvision. As I've stated before on this channel, Microvision does have a tie with U.S. Army Aviation. And what this means is the LiDAR technologies that Microvision develops has been sold to the U.S. Army Aviation sector of the Army, and it is utilized in their Kevlar helmets as a tool in which to help fly their planes and helicopters. And with an increase in budget, there's more likelihood that they can buy more of this sort of technology to incorporate into their planes, into their pilots, and all sorts of different national army needs. Now, that is a huge deal. This is somewhat speculative, but I think a very safe assumption to say you do need to be ahead of the hype and ahead of the curve. You need to predict the news that is coming before it comes. And this is one of those situations where if this does pan out and this does get passed, this gets vetoed tomorrow with the Senate, that could potentially increase the share valuation on MVIS, and I can see that happening. I think that's very likely. The third thing that I want to talk about is the CES presentation that happens every single year. Now, Microvision has gone to the CES presentation every year for the last 10 years, and this year they are not making an appearance. Now, this is somewhat speculative, but I do know this. When a company is in potential buyout conversations, like for Microvision's case, let's say that they're in conversations with Microsoft or Apple or Ford or Tesla, there are certain stipulations they must follow, meaning that they cannot talk about the buyout, they cannot talk about certain technologies they're developing within the company, they can't talk about certain financial situations. There are a lot of things that they have to keep under the table, and that could be why they are not going to the CES presentation this year. Now, this isn't for sure, this is just speculation, but if that is the case, we could be seeing a potential company buyout anytime between now and the next 12 months when the next CES presentation is. Now, if we get to the next CES presentation and they decide to go present there, this didn't mean anything, but what's the downside here, This could mean that we do see a buyout on this company. Now, if it doesn't happen, we still have a very solid company to work with. They do have great technologies. Their financials are projected to be much higher than they currently are. And I do see Microvision going up regardless of whether the buyout happens or not. So you do not need to worry about that. Lastly, there was a post that was put up on Twitter, and I wanted to talk about this. This is probably the most speculative news article that I found. I don't think this is very likely, but I do want to bring it to your attention so you can form your own opinion. My intent is just to give you the information, and you can make do with what you think of it. There was a Tesla Model Y spotted driving with strange sensor rack up top. And if we look here, it looks like some sort of sensor technology, and this could be tied to Microvision. Now, there were people who thought that this affected the pre-market price on Microvision. It was up about 5% in the pre-market today, and that was at about the same time that this started circulating around the internet. Now, that is highly speculative. It's tough to say whether or not this is accurate or not, but this could hint at the fact that Microvision could be in buyout conversations with Tesla. So I would not be surprised if you see Tesla buy out Microvision. Is it going to happen? Of course, I can't tell you that. There hasn't been any sort of news that's come out about whether the buyout is happening or not, but Tesla could very positively benefit from the buyout of Microvision because their LiDAR technologies would greatly enhance the overall safety of a self-driving autonomous vehicle. And Tesla's not the only company like that. Apple in the future with their autonomous cars, I could see Ford doing this and upgrading their game, getting into the autonomous driving scene. The upside here is honestly so high. Like, I don't think people realize how big of a deal Microvision is right now. And with that being said, I want to look at today's overall technical analysis. So let's take a look at the charts. I'll pull this up real quick. MVIS. For whatever reason, my Fidelity account locked me out, but we're back in business, guys. All right, so let's take a look at the two-day chart here. I want to establish a couple levels of support and resistance so we have some ideas of what to expect tomorrow. We do have the strongest level of support being, I'm going to delete this. I meant to click support. We do have our strongest level of support being right here at about $6.04. We're going to lower it down a little bit to 603. Now we do have 1, 2, 3 bounce offs of this 603 price valuation. Our secondary level of support is going to be here at about 589. and we only had one bounce off of this level, but it was a very strong one. So this does seem to be a pretty solid level of support for the stock. So do keep these two numbers in the back of your mind. Now we're going to be looking at levels of resistance. So a very strong level of resistance that we're looking at right now is sitting right about here at $6.35. And you can see that we're kind of hovering around this $6.35 mark in the after hours. So this does seem to be a pretty solid level of resistance. If we do pop over this, which I do think is very likely, this will act as a new level of support, especially because it has been bounced off of more than one time. You're looking for as many contact points to that level as possible, because that indicates the strength and the psychological barrier that is manifested in traders. So this is a very solid level of resistance, and once we break through that, we're going to be looking at a couple more to look at. We're going to be looking at an immediate resistance level sitting right about here at 691. Again here at 737, and one more time at about 761. Now, if we zoom out here on the 10-day chart, I haven't looked yet, but I'd be willing to bet that there are a couple of times where you see these levels play into the price action. Now, if we look here at 691, you can see that it acted as a gap up here. There was a pretty solid gap between 691, so covering this isn't surprising. That's why this is probably acting as a level of resistance. We did have a bounce off right here, so there are a couple of contact points, another one here, another one here. 737, we have two here in the after hours and pre-market. We have one here, 761, bounce off here, bounce off here. So these levels seem to be very important. And if we can break through these immediate price valuations, these immediate resistance levels, I would not be surprised if we see $8 in the near, very immediate short-term future for Microvision. Now, I cannot predict the future. It's very hard for me to say whether we're going to have a green or red day tomorrow. If I could, I'd be a wizard. You would all be very wealthy people, just like I would. But I can speculate based on the information that was presented to us and the patterns and the trends that we're looking at, that it is very possible that we have a green day tomorrow. Now, if we don't panic. If we have a red day, it is an opportunity to improve your position in the stock. You know, today when the stock dropped down to 590, I actually bought 250 shares and improved my position at dollar cost average. I am currently sitting at a $6.84 dollar cost average on this stock and about 1,650 shares. I am down money at the moment, but I'm not stressing at all. You need to let go of the near term and think long term, especially with a company like this where you are basing your value of the company on the potential growth and not the immediate situation. And it is very obvious to me that Microvision is taking proactive measures to ensure that shareholders and the company do see some pretty intense growth over the next year, 2 years, and 3 years. So, last thing that I want to look at is the overall volume of the stock and the volume moving average. You can see that we have bounced around a little bit throughout the last 10 days. We have seen 8 days that are bullish out of the last 10, a little bit of price correction in a couple of days. I would consider today more of a, it was a little bit bearish, but today and yesterday were pretty solid consolidation days. We are forming a very solid base in this 590 to 761 price range. So it's nice to see that we're making some sort of consistent base here to move up to higher highs. And the volume is very promising. We are holding on pretty well to overall volume. We did have this spike here, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of a spike up tomorrow, whether it's red or green, for the news that was just released today on Microvision. The last thing I want to cover is today's volume moving average action. Let's take a look at this. We spent the majority of the first half of the day under the volume moving average. When we saw a pretty steep sell-off, we had the price rejection, came back up, and we have been trading between this pretty thin margin right here between $6.37 and $6.03, which is about the least volatile that I've honestly seen this stock. It is very consolidation-esque to say, but the last couple hours of the trading day, we hung out above and below the volume moving average very closely. We were hugging the line, and we begun to move up in the last hour of the trading day, as well as seeing a spike in volume. Now, this could be a good sign moving into tomorrow. We are going to be looking to see some pretty similar volume action in the stock, and if we do, I would expect to see some volatility either in the upwards direction or the downwards direction. that is what I have for microvision today, guys. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, if I missed anything, please drop a comment in the comment section down below. I would love to help you out and answer any questions you might have. Please drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. It really does help support the channel. And please consider subscribing if you'd love to join the community out here at Trey's Trades. I'd love to have you as part of the family. Over the last 48 hours, we have seen some pretty major traction. I went from 100 subscribers up to about 260, and it's great to have this community build. I'd love to change some lives and build an awesome place where people can share their trading strategies, their trading ideas, and make some money. With that being said, that's all I have for you guys today, and I will see you all next time. Peace.